Time now for the voice of the land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Always Positive Jay.
We're in the game of, if you're going to be in professional sports, you're in the game of hanging banners, putting rings on your finger, that type of thing. And that's kind of the story that the two versions, of course, when Believeland came out in 2016 and then had the edit with the Cavs winning the championship, that's what it was all about. That was to show fans why we're so into it. We want to see that. We don't want to see 52 years. For you, what was the, I guess, the motivation behind putting it together? What was the message you wanted to get out with it? And, you know, what has been the response to it, even to this day, as people continue to talk about that documentary?
Well, I mean, I got hired out of University of Toledo at ESPN. So one of my early days at ESPN, man, the Knicks are making every shot. God.
I love this so much.
They're up 7. The miracles of the internet is you can do a Zoom and watch the Cavs on the other screen. So Cavs down 7. But anyways, when I was doing in my early days at ESPN, I sat around a bunch of people. And, you know, one of the first questions you get asked is, what kind of fan are you, obviously? So 2002, you know, everybody went around the room. And there's a lot of, you know, Boston and New York, some other teams. But, you know, when it came to me, I go, well, I'm a Cleveland sports fan. And one gentleman goes, why would you do that? I go, I'm sorry. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, Cleveland sounds terrible. I'm like, it's really not. Like, I had a great fandom. Had some tough times, but, you know, I really enjoy my teams. And from that really stuck in my head for a long time working there. And I loved ESPN. It was a great company. They treated me so well. But that moment stuck in my brain. So when I was given the opportunity to direct the film, I kind of took it through my emotions of what it was like to be a fan and things I was told and things I grew up in. I mean, again, I grew up in the high 80s, so that was awesome for a Browns fan, and obviously, too, for the Cavs a little bit with Price, Doherty, and Nance and Elo. But on the other end of it, too, was like, you know, the Indians and major league years and bad losses. So I just want to talk about how much of heartstrings it plays in that city, because I really believe sports is a major faction in the city. It just does, and I think that film proved that.
It totally points out,
but economically.
Because I made my fiance watch, and she's not a sports person. I'm like, you still need to watch this because this is our town. I'm like, watch how it points out how our economy does. It goes right with our teams, and the teams lift the people up big time.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, again, the economic dollars of LeBron, the economic dollars of, I mean, the biggest one to me could have done a whole thing was Gateway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Gateway changed everything. It's amazing how that just spurred on the Indians, now Guardians, to the winning.
My dad was a crane operator for all that. So,
it is.
Yeah, like that, all that work actually propelled our family income a lot. So.
Oh, my God, yeah. And like, you know, the other one, too, that we don't talk about enough, Rock and Mortgage is one of the best arenas in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
It is a fantastic facility. It gets talked about a lot by high-end people who aren't from Cleveland, saying, man, this is a magnificent facility.
I mean, I rank the stadiums. I think I'll call them by their original names, Jacobs Field, then Rocket Mortgage, and then that football stadium on the lake is terrible. I'm sorry, because they were forced to make it.
We're staying all positive here, Jay.
It's so bad. I mean, it might be because I sit in the 500s.
It's just Jay. Positive got flushed. Sorry.
Yeah, my dad helped build it. I'm just ripping on it.
No, but I know what you're saying. I'll say this, though. I've done this too long. Browns start winning games. That stadium looks a little better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling a little better on the lake.
I just want my food warm when I buy it there. That's all I care
about. I hear you.
So,
kind of a clunky walk. It's kind of cold, but you know what? You're skipping if you're 5-2.
I ended up.
You're feeling pretty good.
So
I will say I play some big. That's why I laugh when we talk about uniforms. I'm like, just win.
Yeah.
Win a game.
Winning solves everything.
Everything.
Andy, before we touch on, you know, of course, talking about what's coming out with War on the Diamond, I do want to touch on, you know, one more piece of Believeland that really touched home for me, and that was in the, you know, like the redo of it or the edit of it when the Cavs did win, and the focus of, you know, the people that were interviewed and spending Father's Day either at the game or watching that somehow, and you know, fathers with their sons or their daughters, and watching the Cavs win that day. Was that part of when you added that piece at the end? Of course, showing that the Cavs finally ended the drought after what the original documentary showed. But was part of that to kind of show that that generational fandom too here in Cleveland?
Look, you didn't even need to like set it up, and what I mean by that is it was natural, it was organic. What I was really impressed by going into Game 7 was the outside of for seeing people standing in an open garage to watch a game across the street on a big jumbo television in between Progressive Field and the queue at that time. That was crazy to me.
Did you go
That
for
was
the
so
parade?
crazy to me. It was actually even for Game 7. There were people in the garage just they just wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And so they were just watching the television. They had this television set up in the lawn. So like there's people in the lawn, obviously. And then there are people in the garage who were watching this screen too. And there were kids. It was just so Cleveland. Your kids are there, your mom's there, granddad's there. We're all sweating it out. It just was organic. That I didn't even have to make it up. I knew what was going to happen, and it did. And it was just amazing. We are a very big family town in sports. Whenever my brothers and dad and I, mom and I get together, we always talk about the teams. And then about 30 minutes later, we can talk about what's really going on. Because, I mean, that's just how it works. It's a very unique city. And I'm not saying other cities don't have it, but Cleveland, it is a big heart. It's a big part of the blood of the city is these teams.
I probably watched Believeland 10 times. The end of that thing still chokes me up and tears me up every single time when they win it. And it just, like I was telling Kevin, it just gets me in my feelings. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing every single time. So hats off to you, my friend, because it gets me every time. I absolutely love that. And I'm really looking forward to you.
I think I lost 10 pounds in that game. I
had to stay home and watch it by myself. Games like that, I can't be around people. I solely watch games like that by myself.
Well, me too. It's a special game. That I have. I'm getting remarried. My fiance is not a Cleveland fan, and I made her watch it. And she goes, she gets blown away because I'll be. I mean, I live in Connecticut, but I go back to Cleveland quite a bit. And then someone I'll wear a Guardian shirt. He goes, Cleveland, just unbelievable. Your fan base.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just unbelievable. It really is. For people who don't travel outside, you can walk in Madison, Connecticut, and I guarantee you, I ran into someone the other day. She was from Shaker Heights. We started talking. Next thing you know, we started talking some more. She goes, I can't watch the Browns, but the Guardians were still making a run at that point. It happens throughout everywhere. It's amazing. It's not just in Cleveland. You go to other places. We stand out, and we always talk sports, even if it's just 10 seconds at the bar in the cafe. We'll talk for a few minutes and break it down. It's amazing.
The other fan base we love to talk to, too, is Yankees fans, but that's smack talk. That brings us to your...
fun, though, to have that back.
Oh, I love having...
They don't like us. I like the whole thing. Oh, I'm glad they're mad. I'm glad Naylor made them mad. Good.
Yes.
I like rivalries.
Like, I don't take it... Like, some people get a little crazy with the rivalries. Like, all my dad's family's from Michigan, so the Ohio State, Michigan, like I have fun. We had to have fun with it. We don't take it to the like crazy part and trying to fight people and stand and stuff. But I love talking smack to Yankees fans. And when I heard you came out with this documentary, I'm like, I'm sold already. This dude's got me again. Tell us about your documentary coming out here.
Well, it's called War in the Diamond. Go into warinthediamond.com and check it out. And there's a wonderful book. It's called The Pitch That Killed. And I was pitched it during the pandemic, and a production team approached me and they said, would you like to direct this film? I go, I would. And for people who don't know, The Pitch That Killed is Ray Chapman, who played for the Cleveland Indians back in 1920, was struck by a pitch by Carl Mason, and he died. He's the only major league player to ever get hit by a pitch in play and died later on. So what I said is, like, I'd like to do the film and talk about what happened in the tragedy. But I'd like to get into the bigger meaning of Guardians and then Indians and Yankees history. There's a long of it. I was taught as a fan early on to hate the Yankees. We made Yankees about it. And so like I was taught from then on. So I got into the Feller DiMaggio stuff, which they were close friends. The Feller bitterly hated New York and hated the Yankees. We got into 48 and 54. The integrated Indians beating the segregated Yankees was a big storyline. Later on, then we sadly we had what happened with Herb Score, who was hit by a liner by Gil McDougall in 57. And then later we get into the George Steinbrenner 70s years when Steinbrenner grew up in Bay Village, tried to buy the Indians in 71. Sally did not end up buying the Yankees in kind of revenge. And, well, the rest is history. And then that one.
Yeah.
And then, so we get into what happened with George and why did it fail and, what ended up happening with the Yankees. And then we obviously get into the 90s years with 97, 98, bug game in 2007, and away we go.
Still,
the biggest thing is
the top
there's a lot of
favorite game right there, the Midge game.
Oh,
I love it.
Bug game's fantastic. It's fantastic. But there is a lot of memories between these two teams. And again, something I state, but you guys know this. We're not trying to compare Red Sox and Yankees to Indians Yankees. That's not fair. Because Red Sox Yankees is a wonderful rivalry, and that's not fair to those teams. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of history between Indians and Yankees, and it's very deep. And it all started to me with a pitch that happened between Chapman and Mays. And ironically, the Indians went on to beat Babe Ruth and the Yankees that year to win the AL pennant and ended up winning the World Series. It's amazing.
It's. I've heard of this documentary, and several people have kind of mentioned that something like this was going to be coming. And then when I saw that you were the one directing, I was like, I'm definitely in. My wife and I, we actually got married in May, and we got married on the field at League Park. And so we had
wow.
We had the first ever wedding that they knew of at that place, especially since since the city of Cleveland took over, and then we had a baseball theme reception and all that. So like baseball runs deep in my family. So I've been and knowing the emotions that's like Jay said, tip of the cap to you, like the emotions that we got out of Believeland and like how deep I was brought up to be a Cleveland fan, and now to have like this baseball, especially the story between the Indians and the Yankees, and of course now the Guardians and the Yankees, but Cleveland baseball versus New York Yankee baseball. I think that, kind of telling the story, what is the main thing that baseball fans can expect out of this without giving too much away? What is the main thing that maybe people didn't know about that they can expect to see out of this documentary?
There's a lot of history between these two teams. They're still very tied today. Because as long as there was a Bay Village family called the Steinbrenners owning the Yankees, and it's a rivalry. There's a lot of history between these two teams. And I think, I'm not trying to say proof is in the puddings, that's talking so egotistical, but we did win Best Documentary in Boston. And I think to win a Best Documentary in the Boston Film Festival says a lot.
Yeah.
And I was very taken back by that award. I've done a lot of films. I've never won Best Picture or Best Documentary at any film festival until then. And that meant a lot. So I think that is what I'll say to people. I think there's a lot of people who enjoyed it, a lot of people who learned a lot from it. And if you're watching this and you're not even a Guardians or Indians fan or whatever, I think you'll really get a kick out of it. I think it's a lot about the history of baseball, the importance of the game, and why these things matter, and why baseball was the national pastime for a long time. It's not anymore. But why it was and what makes the game so special.
Why I appreciate this document coming out, too, is a lot of these younger guys, they don't really understand, they don't know the history of baseball. The other day, I went in and the kid's 30 years old. I go, oh, did you see the Netflix documentary on Nolan Ryan? And he goes, who's Nolan Ryan? What? I'm like, you're a sports fan and you don't know who Nolan Ryan is? I'm like, baseball is failing us, man. Or like,
I can top that story. I went to Seattle last year for my sister's wedding. She lives out there, and we went to one of their soccer games at the football field, and we wanted to take a walk around, the baseball stadium at least to kind of see what we could see inside. My wife and I, we would love to do a around the MLB parks trip if we could. Sure. And we see the statue of Ken Griffey Jr., and we're just kind of like walking past it. We're going over to the corner of the street where our ride share is going to be picking us up at. And we kind of pass a mother and a daughter, and my wife heard this, and the daughter asked her mom, who is that? Who is that? Who's that statue of, Mommy? And she goes, I don't know, some baseball player.
Ken Griffey Jr. was, you grew up the same time I did. He was a rock star.
Yeah. So, and like
Cleveland fans, everybody loved Ken Griffey Jr. too.
How could you not?
Yeah, that guy is just a class act.
Yeah.